Huples Cat. The Guardian just published some data actually showing that lockdowns are effective, and especially lockdowns that are done before cases spike and that are full lockdowns. One of the strange things throughout this pandemic that we're still currently experiencing has been the number of preppers out there who dismiss the whole concept of lockdown, who dismiss the whole concept of masks. And even stranger, I'm not going to say who she is, a prepper that I happen to like is actually out there now claiming this about vaccination. As I said to her, even that Trump fella is now promoting vaccination because, you know what? The idea of not being vaccinated, the idea of not wearing a mask, and the idea of not locking down in an airborne pandemic is incredibly, mind-numbingly odd. And anybody who understands anything about anything, I think, should automatically be doing all three things with happiness and glee. And yet they're not. And whilst it might be tempting just to dismiss anti-vaxxers and anti-maskers and anti-lockdown types as crazies, there is a substantial number of them. And the bottom line is we need to interact and dialogue with them. Now I try not too much because generally speaking they just get very angry. And that's usually what happens when your argument isn't firm enough not to be angry with, and that didn't occur in this case, I will mention. So I'm going to do a bit of a retrospective very quickly on Spanish influenza in 1918 to 1920, showing again that lockdowns worked in preventing deaths. And the cities and states with the hardest lockdowns actually recovered economically much better than the states that had a very laissez-faire, my body, my right attitude. And the human race went through the same things, masking children, shutting schools, shutting cinemas and bars, doing all sorts of things to try and prevent the spread of influenza and killing a lot of people. Main differences, it was an influenza virus, not a coronavirus. The death rate was much higher in an influenza, Spanish flu, and the infection rate was around about the same or slightly higher. All this has happened before, and all this will happen again. And can we, for the third time when this actually happens on a global scale like this, can we learn? Can we actually understand and learn the lessons? Well, I don't know if we can, but I'm going to give it a go, so maybe you will. Personal lockdown is what you should be doing. Clearly, as you'll see from the data that's coming up, the British government is opening up far, far, far too soon, and you should still be locking down until you get the vaccination. So what worked in Spanish influenza, because it was an airborne transmission, is pretty much the same as what worked in COVID-19. Keep a distance, especially when you have a roof above you. Wear a mask, the best mask you can get, when you have to be near people. Not to allow you to be near people unless you're doing something essential like nursing. I would argue serving French fries and burgers to people is not essential. Providing groceries very much is. Wash your hands. Transmission rates from most stuff can transmit from the hands and then to the eyes or the nose. Try not to touch your face. It's pretty much the same stuff. There's nothing much different. The only thing that's different here is we actually have an effective vaccination program and a science behind it, doing DNA testing, etc., and swabbing to actually tampen down the effects of the virus as it spreads through a population, to know where it's spreading, where it isn't, know what strains are spreading and what isn't, and vaccination. Now, because this is data, basically what I'm doing here is I'm just going to let you see the data, hopefully with a nice little bit of music, but you'll clearly see the number of people per 100,000 being infected going like this, and in relation to lockdown effects. Now, what has not been captured in this data at this point is the effect of vaccination. I would expect vaccination, 1 or 2 doses depending on what you're having, to actually be very effective, much more effective than lockdown in preventing transmission. Nobody knows, we'll have to wait for the data. That's why everybody's saying keep wearing a mask in public. I am. I don't really feel at risk anymore. I've only had 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine, but I'm pretty happy because I've been around a lot of viral load of coronavirus for a long time now, for over a year in nursing. So I'm actually comfortable with the amount of vaccination I've got. I would have liked the vaccination to have been done on schedule, but again the governments are panicking, so they're scared they'll run out again. So that's why they're going to make me wait till June. Most people haven't been vaccinated. Most people in the United States, if they wanted to at this point, probably could have got vaccinated, certainly in the over 50 age group. I would implore you to go and get vaccinated. I would implore you to stop watching websites that spout rubbish, that people who've been vaccinated mysteriously are going to die 6 months to 12 months from now. I'm not quite sure what the mechanism of that will be. I can't think of a mechanism where the vaccine would do that, but whatever. And turning people with the vaccine into super spreaders. So that would effectively mean that most of the population of Israel right now are super spreaders. Unfortunately, it was Israel that has actually vaccinated most of its population, so that actually allows another conspiracy theory or two to pop into the air of people's minds. The world is not as complex as you think it is. You're not as smart as you think you are. Look at history. Look at unbiased history. Lockdowns work. Masking works. Washing hands works. Avoiding people for a period of time works. It works to prevent deaths, it works to prevent illness, and it improves the economic outcome. Honestly, the number of people online have told me, blah, 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 lockdown's worse than the virus. They're absolutely insane. They're literally spouting programmed stuff from various people that they've heard online and without consciousness are spouting it back. There is problems with the vaccination, there are problems with lockdown. I've been fairly well documenting for the last year what I think is right and what I think is wrong, and where I can, why. It's easy to dismiss data if you don't believe the data is real. This data you're about to watch is real. So the data is national data gathered independently in the British government, United Kingdom. They've had a large number of cases, they've had a large spread, they've had two very definite waves, and in fact they had a third wave that was a for sure wave. So they've got the data from 3 waves, and they know what happened before, during and after each of those waves nationally, and they can plot, using the entire country, how the infection was becoming more prevalent or less prevalent. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions. But try and watch this and try and understand, if I have a virus or a bacteria or a prion in my airway and I'm talking at you, if you're wearing a mask and you don't be in the room with me for over 15 minutes, you're still at risk. There is no safe zone. It's a great question of risk. Avoid people. Avoid people without a mask. Make sure your mask is the best you can get and keep that on. And don't touch your hands, don't touch your face. Dispose of the mask properly, recycle the mask properly. Don't shove it in your pocket and pull it out again. I don't know why people think that's okay, because it really isn't. Trust what the government's telling you in a skeptical way. Remember, the government is 3 steps to 4 steps behind whatever's going on, tends to overreact when they shouldn't, tends to underreact when they should. It's the data's there for most places in the world. You can look at the data, you can make your own decisions. But don't judge the anti-maskers and the anti-vaccine people too harshly. They're making choices that to them appear to be sane. They think the choice to wear a mask is dangerous, they think the choice to have a vaccine is dangerous, they think that their death rate is no worse than flu. They have all sorts of constructed paradigms now going on in their head, well into the 13th month of a very serious but minor pandemic. All of this stuff's in their head, and their whole worldview at this point is so out of balance with reality, it's becoming increasingly difficult for them to dismiss nonsense. So again, I'm not a super spreader because I've been vaccinated, nor is Kitty, and I'm not going to die 5 months from now because I've been vaccinated. Absolute rubbish. Can you imagine what would happen in 6 to 12 months from now if more than half the population of the United Kingdom keeled over and died because of the vaccination? I would be shocked. What is the mechanism of this? Is it like nanoparticle time bombs that are set to go off? They construct a worldview based upon the fact of the problems we have, which is massive climate change, massive overpopulation, massive resource use and massive waste creation and huge economic inequality. And they take that actual data and construct a world of paranoid endangerment to them. That they're not going to be wiped out by the New World Order. All those fools who are vaccinated will be. I guess once they've killed us with their vaccine, they're coming after you because you were awake and you knew what was going on. There's many things wrong with the world. There's many things right with the world. Let's just focus on getting over this pandemic and then dealing with the major problems that we have as a people and on this planet. This is not the time for us to be attacking other people, putting up dopey notices on our doorway. Frankly, if you believe what you believe, you will not be stepping out of your house, ever, if you believe that stuff. So you know it's not true. You'll still go to the gym, you'll still go to the grocery store, you'll still go for walks. You know deep down that vaccination is not causing super spreading events. What causes super spreading events is well known. The previous President of the United States, known as Donald Trump, has himself finally admitted, having been vaccinated a few times, that vaccination should be done and is worth doing. But that doesn't convince the committed. And they are committed to a line and a belief system that no longer bears up with any sort of reality. And the more you push onto that reality that's not true, the worse they're going to get, until they have the aha moment where they go, this was a load of cobblers. I don't know why I fell for this. There you have it. Obviously the amount of people you test alters the amount of coronavirus you find. What doesn't alter at all with testing, if you just test and don't do anything with the results, is the number of people who die and get hospitalised. You can ape these figures in a lot of different ways, but the bottom line is harsh early lockdowns work way better than anything else. If you liked this video, please feel free to give me a subscription and or a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. But consider why you give me a thumbs down. Are you doing it because you've been programmed to dislike any mention of lockdowns or masking or vaccination as proactive preps? Think about it for a bit, and then you'll probably still give me the thumbs down. Toodles, have a great week.
This has been a Dog in a Bonnet production, 2021.